Olivia. Welcome to Olivia's Grad Life, where I share my insight as a media psychology graduate student. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why and sharing the media effects research behind it. I'm going to be talking about the potential positive outcomes of the show, the potential negative outcomes of the show, and then finish off with what I hope to see them change in season 2. And all of this is from a media psychology and media effects research perspective. Before I start, I need to issue a trigger warning as well as a spoiler alert. This show follows high school student Hannah Baker as she deals with things such as sexual assault, cyberbullying, stalking, rape, and ultimately committing suicide. This show is filmed in a way that shows the past when Hannah's still alive and all these actions are happening to her, and then it also flips forward to the present when everyone's actually being affected by what happened. If you're not comfortable in hearing about any of that stuff, then please do not watch this video and do not watch the series. One potential positive outcome from the series is that people might segue from watching this to discussing mental health. It also might raise awareness in students who had never really thought about it before. For example, if an adolescent is going through life and doesn't realize that some people are dealing with all this crazy stuff that Hannah Baker seems to be dealing with, then they might notice, hey, my friend seems to be acting that way. Let me go ask her and help her out. Hey, I noticed a student is acting that way. Let me tell the teacher. Let me encourage them to reach out, which is a really great outcome. If it makes people reach out and help others and prevent situations from getting so bad, then that's definitely a positive outcome. Another positive outcome could happen when kids and parents watch the program together. My professor, Dr. Drew Cingel from UC Davis, is actually working with Netflix on a research project right now about parent-child co-viewing with the program 13 Reasons Why. So how is this going to create a positive impact? Well, the show has been criticized for the lack of alternatives in the narrative, which means when parents and children are watching together, parents can pause the show and explain that there are alternatives to their child. They can also clear up any misconceptions that the show might portray. They can let their kid know, hey, if anything gets that bad, you can come and talk to us, or tell them of other resources or explain certain feelings to make sure they really understand the seriousness of the show. Now, while that sounds great, the reality of the situation is the targeted audience, adolescents and young adults who are watching this program are watching it by themselves on Netflix. There's definitely a gap in the narrative, the storyline with regards to the alternatives to suicide, and without a parent present telling you, hey, you can do this, you can do that, we can switch schools. That could lead people watching it to develop certain social scripts and social norms for the situation that isn't healthy. Now, a social script or a social norm is basically the way that you behave in a situation. If you're checking out at a grocery store, the social script kind of tells you, I go up, I place my items on the counter, the cashier is going to scan them, put them in a bag, and I am going to pay, he's gonna give me a receipt, and then walk out. That's a social script, so it's your behavior in a set of circumstances, in a situation. Well, without the alternatives present, without a parent or older person telling you, hey, this is the correct social script, students could potentially adopt this very unhealthy social script going, okay, if these XYZ things happen to me, then committing suicide is the social script, that's the social norm. Now, there are multiple factors that are going to affect whether someone actually adopts that as a social script or not. So there is research by Dr. Peter and Dr. Valkenburg that explains the difference between media effects and an individual's traits. So one thing that the model predicts is that when you identify with a character, meaning when you relate to them, whether it's how they look, their experiences, their family life, you are going to be more affected by their decisions and by the media. Now, media can affect your thought process, your thoughts, it can affect your emotions, it can even impact your behavior. So if someone is identifying with Hannah Baker during this, they don't have a lack of alternatives provided by the narrative or by anyone else, they're gonna be more likely to adopt this social script, which means they're gonna be more affected by the behavior that Hannah is modeling, which can be really dangerous because during the show, she doesn't reach out to her parents, she doesn't reach out to her teacher, she doesn't reach out to friends, and the one time she reaches out to a counselor, when she does not get the response she's looking for immediately, she kills herself. So the social script, the model that this show is teaching, is that if your first attempt at reaching out isn't quite exactly what you hoped it would be, then you should kill yourself. Another really big red flag is the equation of suicide and revenge. This show is making it seem like that by killing yourself is a really good way to get back at your enemies, and it's the only way your voice is going to be heard. Now, adolescence is a developmental period where you are learning and adopting social scripts. Peer approval and influence is incredibly high, and your brain is literally restructuring to think more logically. When you're a teenager, you think of the emotional center of your brain, and this also explains why teenagers are reckless, why they're impulsive, and think they're invulnerable. It's literally because they're not thinking as much with the logical centers of their brain as they are the emotional part. Now, this is not to say that high school students can't be logical, that they can't be smart, that they can't be intelligent. It's just developmentally, you're not going to be thinking as logically and have as much impulse control as you are when you're 24 and this refiguration is complete. Because of this, kids watching this might focus so much on the revenge component that they're not thinking logically and realize the seriousness and finality of this decision to follow in Hannah's footsteps. Now, I want to address something called suicide contagion. Now, this is typically after a celebrity's suicide death is publicized. Suicide rates increase, as well as emergency department visits. I actually interviewed my professor that I mentioned earlier, Dr. Cingel, and I asked him whether or not he thinks that suicide contagion is a potential outcome and effect of the series, and he does not think so. The reason being, when you watch it, Hannah Baker, she's not a celebrity. It's not a real life celebrity who is doing this. It's a high school girl in a show. Even at the end, she's not a celebrity. She's still just a regular high school girl. So what the issue is, why this depiction is still dangerous, is because identification is increasing throughout the show. You are becoming more attached to the character, and if you relate to them in regards to the experiences they've been in, you're adopting those social scripts. You might be more focused on the revenge component, not see the finality in the decision, and then eventually model Hannah Baker's behavior through identification, not through suicide contagion. Here's the thing. Lots of people have watched this show, and a lot of people have not even been affected. I know people who watched it and literally joke, "Welcome to your tape," whenever someone does something irritating towards them. But the thing is, if you are depressed, if you're watching this by yourself, if you don't feel like you can reach out and you see, oh, okay, this girl didn't, oh, and the one time she did, it didn't end well, so I might as well not reach out altogether. And when you're not thinking as logically as you could be, and you're just focusing, I get revenge on these people and my voice could be heard, when you have all of those factors combined in this perfect influential storm, that is when you're at risk for the ultimate unintended consequence of this show. Here's the thing, I know that Netflix hired psychologists to work on them with the show, and a lot of people think it's gonna be really great, raise mental health awareness, all of this stuff, but I still think there are several components they need to change in the show if they want to maximize the positive potential outcomes and minimize the potential negative outcomes. The first thing is they need to embed alternatives into the narrative. It's not enough that when you go to the 13 Reasons Why website, there's a link to all of the suicide hotlines. It's not enough that under a couple of episodes, they have a warning. No, in order to ensure max exposure for their audience, they need to include this in the narrative. Additionally, in the show, they need to show teenagers and adolescents reaching out to peers, to teachers, to counselors, to parents, and being successful. The kids who are going to be greatly affected by this show are going to be the ones that are depressed, identify with Hannah, probably aren't watching this with anybody else. So seeing just one character model that behavior of going to an adult might be all they need to follow that path rather than Hannah's path. Because currently in the show, all the kids just treat the parents like they're idiots, the adults like they're idiots and ignorant and couldn't possibly understand. And that's a really dangerous thing to be teaching someone who is suicidal. Because teenagers' brains aren't fully developed logically yet, they need to make it incredibly clear that they're all alternatives and that you can reach out to other people. They also need to make it clear that support is available and that they are not alone. And again, this needs to be in the narrative and plastered everywhere, not just on a website here and there. I definitely do think this show has the potential to become a conversation starter with mental health with regards to adolescents and parents and teachers and get that conversation going, but as of right now, I think the lack of alternatives and a couple other factors in the show that I talked about are incredibly dangerous for that small subset of the population that identifies with Hannah and is depressed and are going to be the ones to model their behavior. That concludes my research project on the media effects of 13 Reasons Why. All of my links and resources and references are going to be down in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this, hope you learned something. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you're interested in more media effects topic. Most of my videos aren't super serious like this. I want to do media effects videos on like Tinder dates and scary movies and things like that. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe. Anyways, have a wonderful day, keep dreaming out loud, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!